Good afternoon, traders. Today's Thursday, May 2nd, 2013. We're coming to you here from RJO Futures with Kevin Craney, Frank Cholly, and myself, Bob Haberkorn, to discuss tomorrow morning's job number. It's the number that comes from the Department of Labor, monthly number, first Friday of every month. Last month, we had 88,000 created. They're expecting this month to be up around 150, 144 is what we're hearing, with the rate still staying at 7.6%. Not expecting too many fireworks tomorrow. You know, it's hard to tell with the job number how it's going to come out, but we'll see how it plays out. Frank, what are you looking at on the equity side tomorrow?
Well, the equities just keep going higher no matter what kind of news we get, and that's because the Fed's out there, propping the market up. We have the easy money policy, and we're seeing that on a global level. Japan's doing that, the Eurozone's doing that, and we obviously continue to do that. The Fed's made it clear that we'll continue with that program until things get better, and until we get the unemployment rate down to 6.5%, or we see inflation starting to creep in, and they assure us that they have the tools necessary and they could go either way, continue or even more stimulus or less as it becomes necessary. So I kind of have my doubts about that. I think at some point these policies catch up to us, and I'm not certain that the Fed really will be able to, control things the way they claim to be able to do. But this number, we may see a surprise. I don't know now. I guess the surprise would be if we see a bigger number in the non-farm payroll than 150 and not a lower number, because there's growing concern again that there's a slowdown. So
Yeah, and the numbers worldwide, I mean, you saw what the ECB did last night with cutting the rates by a whole half point, put the euro down quite a bit. I think what you see tomorrow is if we do, in fact, miss off that 140 and maybe are down around 88, stocks probably initially would sell off. But with the way things have been going, I mean, sells off, buy it in the afternoon, or buy it after the sell-off, and keep an eye on it, because they seem miraculously just to bounce back, but it goes back to the Fed policy and what's going on with low rates around the world. Kevin, bond markets, what are you looking there?
Yeah, it's interesting, the dislocation between the bond market and the equity market right now. As the equity market moves higher, so do bond markets right now. Treasuries continuing to move higher, both the 10-year, the 30-year, and even the 5-year at this particular point in time. How is this number going to affect that? Well, again, we're looking at 145. Last month, we came in with a bit of a disappointment. Interestingly enough, if we look at the weekly jobless claims, they have come in rather decent over the past month or so. I don't think 145 is a real stretch. It's not a great number, but it's certainly jobs added. Can we get it? We could. Wouldn't be surprised if we come in a little bit below that number. Is it going to affect the bond market that much? I don't think it is, because really when you lift the hood and you look at the U.S. economy, not just the U.S. economy, but the global economy, I'm convinced we are in a slowdown. We're going to go through the summer months. It's probably going to be a little bit slower from an economic growth standpoint, from a macro growth standpoint, and that's really going to continue to support the bond market up here, regardless of what this jobs number shows us.
Yeah, and you touched on it best, but the equities are going up and the bond markets continue to go up, and you're right, the bond markets are usually the correct one in it. So equities are definitely interesting. Precious metals right now, I don't think this number is going to have too much of an effect on the silver and gold market. 2 weeks ago we had the monster ball sell-offs in those markets, and right now traders are still trying to get their heads around what's going on in the precious metal markets. Keep an eye on later in the day on Friday, the Commitment of Traders report. I think that'll give you more direction into next week, what to look at on the silver and gold markets. But not expecting too much unless it was to miss real big or or gain more than what's expected in a significant way. I always see that kind of affecting the metals. Metals are kind of doing their own little thing right now. So
pay attention to revisions as well. I think
Yeah,
when we look at
absolutely.
what we've seen at these past unemployment reports, we see a number come out, but we see revisions a month, 2, 3 months back. And sometimes those revisions are lower than what the actual stated number was in the beginning. So I think it's important to pay attention to those revisions and how that paints the picture for the overall employment numbers as well as the employment rate.
Yeah. I mean, the bar 150, 144. I think that's setting the bar fairly low. But what we've had over the last, considering last month was only 88,000, that revision for last month's will be interesting if they do revise that. I mean, 88,000. can be revised down pretty far. So
Right.
keep an eye there. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook. Remember, futures trading does pose significant risk. Is not suitable for all investors.